So I've been drawing a lot of Monster High recently, and that is for a good reason. You see, Cat's Eye has done like a collab with Monster High, I think last month, and that really brought back so many nostalgic memories to me, and I literally watched all the Monster High films I could find on Prime. Then I thought, I wonder what the Disney princesses would look like as Monster High characters, since monsters and mythical creatures are also involved in their stories. So today I'll be turning some of the most popular Disney princesses into Monster High characters, starting off of course with my favourite, Cinderella. The most prominent thing I remembered about Cinderella was definitely her silver pumpkin carriage, and I think I mentioned this before, but when I get married I would love to have this carriage take me to the wedding venue. But the pumpkin carriage was also significant to Cinderella since it's the one that took her to and from the ball. So what I wanted to do is basically incorporate the design of the pumpkin into Cinderella's Monster High design, but also add a dash of Monster High element onto her characters as well, so it is going to be a bit spooky. And speaking of being spooky, she's actually going to be the daughter of the Jack-o'-lantern, specifically Stingy Jack. And if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, basically Stingy Jack is this kind of like myth or folklore that started off in Ireland, and he's the whole reason why we even have pumpkin carving traditions nowadays. He was basically this like really drunk man that likes to cause trouble, and one day he was about to die, or I think Satan just wanted his soul, and since he was a sinful man he couldn't really go to heaven, so the devil came for his cheeks instead. And of course, he didn't want to go to hell, so he decided to play a trick with the devil and was like, hey, before I go to hell, would you want to buy me a drink first? And the devil didn't really think this was sus, so he agreed to it, and they went to a pub, and when they were about to pay for the tab, the devil was like, oh, well, I don't have any money. And of course Jack was like, well, yeah, neither do I. So Jack convinced the devil to basically turn himself into a coin, so Jack's gonna use him to pay for the tab, and then when the bartender's not looking, the devil could just turn back in his normal form. The devil thought, yeah, this is genius, and basically turned himself into a coin, and as he was in his coin form, Jack basically took him, put him in his pocket, and put a crucifix next to him so he couldn't return to his devil form again. The devil didn't have a choice but to bargain with Jack again, and he basically had a deal with him to say that if he left him alone for 10 years, Jack would let him go. And as agreed, the devil did leave Jack alone for 10 years, and eventually he came back for Jack's soul again, and Jack was like, no, I'm not having this, let's do another bargain. And this time the challenge was whoever gets the highest branch of a certain tree, then they get to decide what happens next. And the devil of course won that, but as he was climbing the tree, Jack put a lot of crucifixes and crosses at the base of the tree so the devil couldn't go down. So the devil again had no choice but to bargain with Jack. And this time Jack said, I'll let you go, but only if you leave me alone forever and never come back for me and never take my soul. And the devil had no choice, and he just went, yeah, right, that's fair. But the issue is that when it actually came time for Jack to go on and pass away, if you guys know what I mean, no one was there to collect his soul, because he couldn't go to heaven because he was a sinful man, and since the devil wasn't supposed to take his soul because of the deal, he couldn't really go to hell, so he just basically spent the rest of his afterlife in limbo. I think out of pity the devil gave him like, I don't know, glowing turnip or glowing lantern, so he goes around just with this like little glowing light, but people really want to scare him away because they don't want Stingy Jack anywhere near them. So what they would do at the time is that they would carve scary faces onto turnips and put them outside in their home to deter Jack away. But the thing is, the reason why we use pumpkins now is because when settlers went to America, they realized that turnips were a bitch to grow in there. But the thing is, pumpkins were abundant, so they kind of continued their tradition there of keeping Stingy Jack away, but instead of using turnips, they used pumpkins. I really do find that the story of Stingy Jack to be quite interesting, and it has some comedic elements onto it as well, especially with the fact that he's tricked the devil twice. But it's also interesting how it ended, because in a way he just shot himself in the foot, since he knew that I'm supposing he knew that he couldn't go to heaven because he was a sinful man, but I'm just kind of wondering, what did he expect? He literally told the devil, do not collect my soul. Did he not really thought, well, where am I going to go next, But the whole story itself I just found really interesting, and I thought maybe since I'm making Cinderella's design to be pumpkin theme, it would make so much more sense for me to basically label her as the daughter of Stingy Jack. And just talking about the design itself, you guys could see that her face itself or her head is like a pumpkin. It's literally the jack-o'-lantern, so you wouldn't see any kind of pupils in there. It is quite strange because typically I love drawing the eyes of the character. I think that brings the whole character together, so it did feel a little bit strange that it didn't give her any pupils at all. But I really do like the subtle kind of like pumpkin elements onto her. Her face is very obviously pumpkin, but around her design you see those vines. Those are really cool, I find, just because I'm not sure if you guys ever grown pumpkins, but they are really such a bitch to grow. So for me, I think they're really easy to grow as long as you have space. The issue is that they take up so much space. You might be thinking, oh wow, if I put my pumpkin in one area of the garden, they'll stay there, but they don't stay there. Their vines creep up everywhere. And that fact, I really wanted to put on her characters. That's why you could see vines creeping up on her legs, and I thought that added such a good aspect of her design. It's just so weird seeing Cinderella without her blue dress, but I thought that the kind of warm autumny colours would suit her a lot better for this context. Now for the next princess, I'm actually choosing Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. Well, actually, for this specific design, I actually based her off of the Aurora in the Maleficent film. Now, I'm not too sure if we should actually treat the film as canon, but regardless, the relationship between Maleficent and Aurora in that film was so cute and very familial. And it came to the point where, I had to use that as inspiration for her Monster High design. I was imagining that maybe the film was like canon and Aurora would eventually take Maleficent's place and be some sort of dark fairy herself. But the thing is, before I go on, I want to talk about that photo that you can see at the top left hand side corner. It's actually a prototype design that I made whilst I had some time at work. I basically used some Posca markers and I used it to create the silhouette of the character first, and then I used a small black liner pen to make the details. The reason why I didn't do this for Cinderella was just because I was at home while I was drawing her. But for Aurora and the other character I'm about to draw, I was actually at work and I had a sudden feeling of inspiration and idea, so I had to draw it down before I forget about it. I mean, if I could just draw every single idea I had for all of these videos I made, you guys will be watching like an hour-long video every week. But unfortunately, the times I've got at work is quite rare, I'm always busy in there and I always have stuff to do, so it's quite rare for me to actually find time to draw things when I have the idea or inspiration for it. So this is quite a rare occurrence for me that I managed to draw a silhouette for her first, and I'm using that as kind of like the prototype design before I sketch out what I think should be the final design. And what I wanted her to look like is basically more of a Tinkerbell type fairy instead of a dark fairy like Maleficent, which means that she's going to have those light insect-like wings instead of the giant bird wings we see that Maleficent has in the film. To be fair though, looking at the design right now, there isn't really much change from the final design versus the prototype, so that's just alright. The only thing I changed that was quite major was actually her hair. I realized that her hair in my original prototype drawing, it was a bit too messy, and I guess the reason why I did that is because I wanted her to kind of resemble a dark fairy a bit more, but then again, it didn't look like her, it didn't suit her, so I changed it back to how her hair looks in the original Disney film. One other thing is that you guys might have seen earlier that I gave her green skin, and that's because I wanted her to look or resemble Maleficent, but it didn't suit her, I didn't like it, so I changed it. And aside from that, the pink and blue that you see in there is inspiration from the pink and blue incident in the film itself. Alright, so lastly we're going to go for Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and the explanation for this might get long, but essentially she's the daughter of the haunted doll. Now, when Belle went to the fairy princess castle and you could see that she met all of these maids and servants, but they were there as objects? Well, I had a thought about that. What if Belle was also one of them? Now, you guys have to bear with me on this just because I'm going to try and explain this the best way I can. But there's different depictions of the same story. Well, that's the same thing for Beauty and the Beast. There are some depictions where her father actually struck a deal with the furry beast, whatever he was. But basically, he made a deal with him saying, look, don't put me into prison, let me go, and I will let you marry one of my daughters. Yes, Belle did have other sisters. Some stories say that they were stepsisters. Some stories were saying that they were just biological sisters. That doesn't matter though. But her father was basically, in my opinion, he was a prick, because he went to the beast and was like, yeah, don't imprison me, I'll send one of my most prettiest daughter to you to marry. You know what, this gave me a thought. What if this happened in the official Disney story, but instead of Belle's dad having a daughter, he doesn't have a daughter. He lied to the beast and said, oh, I'm gonna send you one of my most prettiest daughter, but he doesn't have any, so he created one out of porcelain or something like that. It could be like a Pinocchio story. But yeah, he made a daughter and gave that to the beast, and because the castle was magic, it brought her to life. Now you guys might be wondering, why the hell did you choose porcelain? Isn't he like a wood carver or something? I have no idea what he was, okay? I know that he was some sort of inventor. I know that in the Disney film he used wood a lot, but to me, I just thought porcelain would suit better, just because, you know, old dolls, right? You know those old-fashioned Victorian really creepy dolls, yeah? The really high quality ones were actually made of porcelain, and these dolls look extra creepy once you let them age. Another thing that you guys might notice is that I added some cracks and chips all across her character design, and that's just to basically emphasize the fact that she's made out of a very fragile, I think expensive material as well, and also it's to add on to that haunted doll look. If you guys have ever seen a vintage porcelain doll, you guys would notice that they do chip quite easily, and again, that's because they're quite fragile and children play with them. But that, oh god, they look extra creepy. I don't like that. You could never make me touch a porcelain doll. In my opinion, I wholly truly believe that any vintage porcelain doll out there is haunted, and you could never make me go near that. I was about to search up images of vintage porcelain dolls so that you guys can see what they look like, but then when I looked them up, they freaked me out a lot. I genuinely don't like looking at them. So you guys will have to just Google that yourself, just because I don't want that in my video. Now, my favorite part about this design is definitely the skirt. So if you guys have a closer look, it's actually a giant upside down teacup, and I just thought this was genius. I was just thinking, maybe when Belle's dad entered Luigi's haunted mansion and got taken care of by Mrs. Potts and Little Chip, he was very grateful to them, so he added an aspect of their cups in Belle's design, and I just thought it's really cute, because, I mean, if you somehow flip this image, hold on. Here we go, it's a bit more obvious now, but it just looks like a cute little china teacup. I love it so much. That's why I was saying to you guys earlier that when I have these inspirations and ideas, I need to draw them down if I have the time to. Because look at that, that is absolutely so cute. Now, let me just turn the image back around again. But yeah, you know what? If I actually have the time and talent to make a skirt like this, I will definitely make one, and I'll be wearing it in the streets. Well, that's all I have for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little drawing sesh, and do let me know which one of these girls are your favorite down at the comments below. And if you guys want me to make more videos like these in the future, make sure you let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe as well. But until then, I'll see you all next Mango Monday. Bye!